Tonight in 7 News, Mother Nature in a menacing mood. King tides, huge waves smash Gold Coast beaches on a day the ocean ruled and tourists watched in awe. Damage on Brisbane's Bayside, Stradbroke Island to the Sunshine Coast and beyond. The northern end of Bribie Island torn open by monster surf. A Gold Coast man in his 30s dies after testing positive to COVID. A new warning to stay home as much as possible in coming weeks. Anger as long testing queues lead to road rage. Sick families waiting for hours turned away. Plus the latest on the supply of rapid tests. Trouble deepens for Prince Andrew, the secret court documents and threat to his royal title. Seniors groups call it a no-brainer, the key change they want to the aged pension. And launching the pig test without Glenn McGrath, the star and now the CEO, positive.
Live from Brisbane, 7 News with Katrina Blowers.
Good evening. Huge swell, high tides and gale force winds have whipped up wild and dangerous conditions across the southeast. Beaches were swamped, roads flooded, and on the Gold Coast, the surging seas swallowed a shipping container.
4-metre waves slammed into the Gold Coast Seaway and sand pumping jetty, and at Currumbin turned the surf club car park into a raging river.
Jesus!
The surge from ex-cyclone Seth sent a shipping container adrift.
Oh my goodness, there goes the container. Oh my God.
Crowds had come to watch the rampaging sea. Perched atop Elephant Rock, they had a front row seat as the steel container was dragged away onto the beach.
Oh my God.
And in its wake, tens of thousands of dollars worth of alcohol.
Look at the beer.
The tides just took it away from the surf club, the car park. Alcohol.
High tide just came through and ripped it all out, including the shipping container. So in a matter of a few minutes, it just sucked everything out of the storage rooms.
At Burleigh Heads, huge logs were washed around in the foaming white water as waves slammed into the side of Rickshaw's beachfront restaurant.
Big, huge, it's unbelievable.
Further out, a few surfers used jet skis to get onto the waves. Wild waves wiping out here initiated a second adventure, surviving a turbulent assault from the waves as they pounded the rocky headland.
There's no way you can paddle out there, that's for sure.
Exposed to the full force of the cyclone-generated swell, the seaway wall at the city's northern end bore the brunt of the towering waves. The sand-pumping jetty nearby swamped by the highest peaks on the morning high tide.
Today is big, huge, and look at that all the way.
All beaches were closed, danger signs planted in the sand, but beach walkers often went unchecked until the ocean cut off their path. And an example of how quickly things can change, sunbaking became a dangerous swim in seconds at Main Beach.
When they say the beaches are shut, they are shut.
At the Seaway, there were reports of pets in peril.
I went to the dog beach and a couple of dogs got washed away.
The city's northern beaches are being stripped of sand with each high tide. Council will flatten the worst of the scarping with a fleet of machines.
They could have moved in this afternoon with the low tide revealing a huge expanse of sand, but all of that work would have been undone when the tide peaks again tomorrow morning.
Hundreds ventured out on the Southern Point breaks. Snapper Rocks was crowded, but Kira had the biggest waves. The tops of the swells stripped into showers of spray by wind gusts of more than 60 kilometres an hour.
It's got to be 10 foot on the sets, and probably the odd bigger one as well.
The wind's even stronger in the hinterland, causing waves on Hinns Dam, which cascaded over the spillway. Hinns has risen to 99.9%. But flooding on many local streets today was from the tidal surge, not the recent heavy rain.
Yeah, my son's going to work, and then he said to me, Mom, the water is up. And then when I see, oh my God, it's all over the well.
Roads and footpaths submerged in Labrador and Bigara waters, the Coomera River breaking its banks at Hope Island. Just another hazard on already busy holiday roads. On the Gold Coast, Amanda Abate, 7 News.
Jordan Bissell is at Snapper Rocks. Jordan, there are still surfers out in the wild seas.
Yeah, Katrina, wave heights here have decreased during the afternoon just off the Gold Coast, although there are still some swells of more than 5 metres being recorded off the coastline. Surf at the Southern Point breaks has been incredible from Burleigh Heads to Currumbin Alley and at Snapper Rocks and Kira. It'll be similar tomorrow, but conditions in the morning are expected to be hazardous for coastal activities like swimming, rock fishing and surfing.
All right, thank you, Jordan. Georgie Chumley is at Kings Beach at Caloundra. Georgie, lifesavers have been busy today.
Katrina, they performed over 3,000 preventative actions and performed 55 rescues, helping not only swimmers to shore but surfers too. The majority happening in just the past couple of hours at low tide, with all that water rushing back out to sea, taking anything in its path with it.
Now, look at this.
From playing in the shallows to seconds later being sucked out to sea.
They've got 7 kids all holding onto one raft.
At Currimundi Beach, 8 children rescued. It was closed and they weren't meant to be in the water.
Absolutely crazy.
Swimmers across the coast disobeyed orders from surf lifesavers, even in huge swell.
Who's going to save them?
They're crazy. I'd hate to be a lifeguard at the moment.
Surfers weren't exempt. One became stranded hundreds of metres from shore.
Someone's lost a surfboard over the back there, and every time they go to retrieve it, it gets blown out further.
Onlookers calling the Westpac rescue chopper. Thankfully, he made it in on his own.
We really encourage you to not follow an experienced surfer if you're moderate or you're not aware of the situation.
While big surf wreaked havoc at Bribie, a whole chunk of the island has washed away. North and south separated by a widening canyon.
The water was flowing through, it's so fast. Every 5 minutes another tree fell over. This morning another tree fell over.
No longer an uninterrupted barrier to Golden Beach.
We don't want the coral sea up against the buildings.
Sand has been swallowed at Kawana.
There wasn't much beach to walk him on, so it was a pretty short trip.
With scarping affecting dunes.
It looks like it definitely should be closed.
The huge swell will hang around until tomorrow before easing back on Wednesday. High tides combined with the storm surge saw roads at Caloundra's Bullcock Beach flooded. Firefighters forced to cut power with live electrical boxes affected.
I knew it was going to be up like this today, so I came out a quick look.
But not all beaches were closed. Thousands flocked to protected shores like Noosa.
It's peak season and people come here and you just learn to work around it.
A sea of holidaymakers and shade tents, grateful to get some sun, with many people heading back to work tomorrow. Georgie Chumley, 7 News.
North Stradbroke Island residents have spent the day sandbagging properties in an effort to stave off those relentless tides. Suburbs in Brisbane and on the Bayside are also on alert, with high water levels set to continue.
In a fight against time and tide, sweeping away the water, fortifying the Amity Point home on North Stradbroke Island, stacking sandbags and lining tarps along the back porch as waves crash closer. Jumpinpin boat ramp was split in two by a wall of water. A wet Woody Point footpath made walking difficult in Redcliffe, while drivers took on tidal waters at Wynnum.
Some people, they do use their brain, some it doesn't.
Tides peaked at 2.6 metres around 10:30 this morning. Some did anything they could to avoid the water, others were happy to walk on top of it.
You couldn't see any of that stone wall there. It was just amazing.
As ex-tropical cyclone Seth approaches the coast, the combination of winds and low pressure will mean the tides will be even higher than normal.
Tide levels won't truly ease until later on in the week. That's good news for eager kayakers in Bowen Hills, but not for commuters in the flood-prone areas.
Breakfast Creek, Albion, Bowen Hills, parts of Windsor, and also those Bayside suburbs.
Bayside residents are waiting to see what impact ex-tropical cyclone Seth will have on the tide in the coming days. Here in Wynnum, anything over 2.8 metres could start threatening homes. Coast Guard is also urging boaties not to underestimate the conditions.
We're seeing forecasts in 20 to 30 knot winds over the next couple of days. The increased tides, it means for us that we've got to have all our boats ready.
Ready to go ahead of another wet week. Ned Balm, 7 News.
Now let's go to Liz Cantor. And Liz, there's more wild weather on the way this week.
Here at Burleigh this evening, the jet skis remain out there towing surfers and the beach remains closed. Despite this, there are still swimmers entering the water. Our beach conditions will remain extremely dangerous over the coming days with waves well over head height. Here's a look at the current warnings. We have a severe weather warning for strong winds for the Bay Islands, Gold Coast and southern border ranges, with dangerous surf and high tides right along the southeast coast. This low is expected to slowly weaken but also move closer to our mainland. There's a chance it could cross the southeast coast late this week, and if that happens, then we're likely to see heavier rain and potentially flash flooding. The Gold Coast could receive another 50 millimetres. Plenty happening with the weather. I'll be back later with a more detailed forecast.
Thanks, Liz. See you then. A man has died after testing positive to COVID, potentially marking the state's first virus death of the year. Queensland recorded another spike in cases, with the Premier now suggesting it's time for people to think about staying at home more.
These are testing times, and none more so than when you're stuck in a line waiting for one.
We got here at 6 in the morning and it was mayhem all down the road. And I saw about 2 accidents happen, and then just the bumper-to-bumper traffic up there. Yeah, a lot of arguments on the road. It was just mayhem.
Mayhem at this Gold Coast drive-through clinic. An influx of New Year's patients wait their turn, not the resolution they had in mind.
A lot of people are going to hear this story today. They're not going to come tomorrow. They're just not going to put themselves through it.
But the cases will keep coming. Overnight, another jump to 4,249 and potentially the state's first COVID death of the year.
This goes to show that this pandemic can have very serious consequences to anyone.
The Gold Coast man was in his late 30s and vaccinated. He died suddenly at home last night. Health authorities say he had a probable COVID infection, but his cause of death isn't clear.
It's very, very unusual for a young man to die suddenly from COVID-19. It's a very unusual circumstance, so it needs further investigation exactly what has happened here.
Spreading cases forcing a new warning, the Premier suggesting home is the place to be.
Please think seriously about where you are going. Limit the number of large gatherings that you would be attending.
10 people are now in ICU, 1 ventilated, but with most cases presenting as mild, a non-medical professional is questioning, is this variant any worse than the flu?
The common thread is it's not that sick.
The Gold Coast Mayor writing to the Chief Health Officer asking, are the ongoing restrictions necessary?
The idea is to go, ask the question, get the answers out there.
It's not a totally illegitimate question, okay, but this is not influenza. It is more severe.
The state's top doctor points out the chief difference between influenza and COVID-19 is the sheer number of cases we will see. His prediction, all Queenslanders will have been exposed to the virus within weeks. Another reminder to those yet to be double-dosed, time is running out.
We'll get through this together if everyone does the right thing.
Joel Dry, 7 News.
COVID doesn't take a public holiday, so why are some testing clinics? That is what thousands of people are asking after sick Queenslanders spent hours trying to find an open centre.
Hurston, Indooroopilly, Ashgrove.
Been to 2 other ones today and they weren't open.
With the peak coming and the risk profound, private testing centres chose to close or close early. Sick people trying to do the right thing were piped to the only places open this public holiday, Murarrie.
There should be toilets, you know, and vending machines.
The Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital bring a crate, a chair, your patience. One person collapsed in a queue of sick, potentially contagious people waiting hours in the sun.
To be quite frank, I don't think it's acceptable, even though it's a public holiday, to have these clinics shut. I mean, COVID doesn't take a break.
A break is what Tammy White deserves. The Alexandra Hills family is sick. Their car was running on empty. Their hearts too.
Our son just died not long ago, a few days ago, so being in a COVID line is not the best thing. We need to be tested because of a family member so we can get on with our funeral arrangements.
After Zach's sudden death, loved ones flew across the country to be with them. One has since tested positive.
The youngest one's got sore throat, runny nose, cough.
Children over 5 are eligible for a vaccine in 7 days. Booking a spot right now is difficult. Can't find an appointment for your child? Pharmacists say don't stress. Most won't open their books until stock arrives. The special doses, 1/3 of the strength of the adult vaccine, are due within days.
There is stress and anxiety. My advice is be patient. There will be vaccine appointments available.
And from midnight, another 1 million Queenslanders are entitled to a booster. Anyone who had their second dose 4 months ago.
There is enough vaccine for every Australian to have their booster already in country.
Today there weren't enough vaccination clinics, just 2 opened for the public holiday. Erin Edwards, 7 News.
And coming up, the latest on the supply of rapid COVID tests. They are coming, but don't expect them to be free. Don't miss that story. It's coming up soon. 4 arrests have been made over a deliberately lit fire at Old Parliament House. The front doors and portico of the historic building were badly damaged in the blaze, started during an Indigenous protest. A 30-year-old Victorian man has now been charged with arson and damaging Commonwealth property. 3 others were also charged over their involvement in the protest. Task Force investigators led by Australian Federal Police haven't ruled out further arrests. Trouble is deepening for Prince Andrew, with speculation he could be stripped of royal titles if he loses a pending sexual assault case. In the coming hours, his legal team and the rest of the world will see once secret documents they hope could end the case.
His future is set to play out in a New York court this week, but at home, Prince Andrew is facing a royal snub, with royal aides debating whether the Queen's son should be stripped of his title, the Duke of York, if he loses the sexual abuse lawsuit against him. His accuser, Virginia Giuffre. The 38-year-old claims she was trafficked by convicted pedophile Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell to have sex with the prince back in 2001. She also claims Epstein abused her. In 2009, Giuffre and the financier came to a confidential settlement agreement in a separate civil case. That agreement is set to be unsealed tomorrow. It's believed the details of that deal will be crucial to the prince's defence when his lawyers present their case to a New York judge. They claim the agreement shields the Duke from litigation. The hearing set down for this week will decide the future of the lawsuit. The prince has consistently denied the accusations, but pressure is building on him to step away from royal life for good. In New York, Miley Hogan, 7 News.
Cricket Australia's CEO has become the latest COVID casualty as the virus continues to upset Australia's Ashes preparations 2 days out from the 4th test. COVID positive Glenn McGrath is already isolating, but he's still holding out hope of making the special pink test in his late wife's honour.
The third Ashes showdown was the rapid test we all got to enjoy for free. But the Aussies continue to pay a COVID price. First, Travis Head, now Cricket Australia boss Nick Hockley, but perhaps the cruelest case is the sport's most charitable man.
Hopefully return a negative sort of rapid test, hopefully on the day one of the test match.
Glenn McGrath missed today's launch of his pink test, but is determined not to miss the day most important to him.
I think the planets have to align.
The event hopes to brighten up the darkness of COVID by turning the SCG into a sea of pink and smash last year's fundraising record of $3.2 million to help families and mothers like Annette Hansen.
I was 38 at the time and I was newly pregnant. I was just almost 3 months along when I accidentally felt a lump in my breast.
Diagnosed with grade 3 breast cancer, Annette's greatest fear was endangering the life of her little boy Alex. The McGrath Foundation helped her defy the odds. This year, the event hopes to sell more than 240,000 virtual seats, which is the amount of people that can fill the SCG over a 5-day series, to cover the care of almost 3,500 patients and their families. Bill Hogan, 7 News.
Rapid antigen tests are selling out across the country. Now the Prime Minister is under pressure to make them accessible to everyone. It's hot at the best of times, but in Queensland's far north there's a heat wave. Imagine how hot that is. When getting a haircut and not losing your spot trumps the danger of earthquake fallout. And before the weather, the diabetes drug that's doing more than just lowering sugar levels.
Every day, we all need to know what's going on around us.
And still the rain tumbles down. This dramatic rescue at Dongleby this afternoon.
Everything that impacts you.
Pushing back.
The Queensland issues unfolding right now.
The crowd is going up. You can feel the excitement in the air.
We never stop, so you get the answers you need.
How can you have an inquiry into the health system and not look at ramping?
We'll break into programs live, so you're the first to know.
We interrupt programming to bring you breaking news.
Continuing this rolling coverage, we're about to hear the latest live.
The Premier has issued a warning.
Don't be left in the dark.
Wayne Bennett back to lead the Dolphins.
Is it a good deal for Australia? When you're on 7, you'll always know the news.
It has been a tough couple of years. We are going to get the Olympic Games in 2032.
We can reveal exclusively on 7 News
A breakthrough moment.
and we have some breaking news.
Know the news with 7 News, Queensland's #1.
Northern Queensland is known for its heat, especially this time of year, and it's about to get even warmer. The Weather Bureau is warning a summer heat wave is about to hit from Rockhampton to Cairns.
I love it, but our poor little puppies, they struggle.
Temperatures in Cairns and Cardwell are expected to reach around 40 degrees over the next few days, nearly 10 degrees above average. It didn't quite get that hot today, Cairns reaching 34 degrees, but it felt more like 39. Health authorities are telling people to stay out of the sun and keep an eye on elderly neighbours. Rapid antigen tests, they've become a must-have, with shelves emptying almost as soon as they're filled. There were also claims of price gouging. The Premier announcing today she's ordered $18 million for Queensland as the Prime Minister continues to resist pressure to make them free.
In pharmacies across the country, staff can't restock the shelves fast enough. Even with limits of 2 per customer, Chemist Warehouse is selling 500,000 rapid COVID tests a day. Demand has exploded since Scott Morrison announced a shift away from the traditional PCR tests to the DIY kits. But he's resisting calls to follow the UK's lead and make them free for everyone.
You just go to your chemist or doctors and just grab a whole handful.
Instead, the government has agreed to split the cost of the tests bought by the states, which are being handed out at no cost to people identified as close contacts, with plans to make them cheaper for pensioners. For everyone else, prices start from about $15.
We're at another stage of this pandemic now where we just can't go round and make everything free.
But with Omicron cases soaring and rapid tests in short supply, price gouging is becoming a serious problem. And Labor says people are now going undiagnosed.
This is a public policy failure, the like of which we haven't seen in this country before.
With stock levels expected to stabilise over the coming weeks, the head of Chemist Warehouse is calling on the federal government to drop the GST from the take-home kits to make price less of a barrier to getting a test.
That's something the government, I'm sure, could do overnight to make them more affordable.
We're very happy to do that here, but it would require the states to sign off on it because they forego that revenue.
And that may take some convincing. Rob Scott, 7 News.
Thousands have defied crowd bans to protest in the streets of Amsterdam. Riot police attempted to break up crowds. Even a police dog was seen taking down one protester. The Netherlands went into lockdown on December 19. A powerful earthquake has rattled parts of China. Debris came crashing down as the 5.5 magnitude tremor hit the Yunnan province. People raced outside to safety, but one man getting his hair cut didn't seem too bothered, choosing instead to wait for the barber to come back. They are among the most at risk from COVID-19, next to health warning for pregnant women, the latest advice from doctors. The sprinklers failed and the roof collapsed. Fire devastates South Africa's parliament. The push for a change to the age pension, how it could help older Australians wanting to stay in the workforce. And after sport, a rescue mission to save a dog buried beneath an avalanche. A Toowoomba father has drowned trying to save his son at a popular swimming spot on the Sunshine Coast. The boy reportedly slipped and fell into the raging torrent at Whopper Falls at about 2 o'clock yesterday afternoon. His 49-year-old dad dived in after him.
His young son was retrieved by bystanders, and unfortunately the father has slipped in the water and not re-emerged.
The boy was taken to hospital for observation. The father's body was retrieved last night. A report will be prepared for the coroner. Doctors say unvaccinated pregnant women are among the highest at risk of severe illness as Omicron cases surge across the state. Those pregnant, breastfeeding or planning to conceive are warned to get all 3 COVID jabs as soon as possible.
A few months into her pregnancy, Courtney Chu made a tough decision to get her Pfizer shots fast, despite her reservations.
Just birth defects and things, like later on in life. You just don't know. It was more important for my health and for the baby, I think, to get the vaccination.
Fee Verma was double jabbed during her second trimester.
How severe COVID can affect the mum and the baby during pregnancy is quite scary.
The risk of premature or stillbirth is almost doubled for the unvaccinated.
The mother has a more than 20-fold higher risk of dying compared to her non-pregnant self if she contracts COVID-19.
As Omicron cases spread rapidly, women pregnant or breastfeeding are urged to get Pfizer or Moderna jabs now.
Does provide you with a suit of armour of sorts.
Get the first 2 shots 3 to 6 weeks apart and the booster 4 months after the second shot. Women must wait 7 days between getting a COVID jab and influenza and whooping cough shots. Some women have been waiting to conceive before getting vaccinated, but doctors warn women not to wait. The sooner they're protected, the safer the pregnancy will be.
We know that after vaccination, antibody levels spike and then they wane with time, but that's why women then have a second dose.
And health experts say there is no evidence to suggest any COVID vaccine impacts fertility. Crystal Etherington, 7 News.
Just a day after celebrating the life of national hero Archbishop Desmond Tutu, South Africa's parliament has been badly damaged by a huge fire. Authorities have at least 1 man in custody, politicians describing it as a sad day for democracy.
Flames burning high above the roofline. Thick black smoke joining the famous Table Mountain on Cape Town's skyline. South Africa's 138-year-old parliamentary complex on fire. Firefighters arrived well before automatic alarms were triggered. The sprinkler system failed too, as multiple blazes took hold above both chambers of Parliament.
This is a very sad day for our democracy because Parliament is the home of our democracy.
MPs say the National Assembly debating chamber has burned down and the roof has collapsed. In recent years, there's been proposals to move the Parliament from its historic home in Cape Town to Pretoria. The President called this a terrible, devastating event.
I believe somebody is being held right now and they are being questioned. But we need to go a lot deeper into how this type of event can take place.
A 49-year-old will face court tomorrow. In London, Hugh Whitfeld, 7 News.
The Queen is mourning the death of one of her closest confidants, her longtime lady-in-waiting, Lady Diana Farnham, passing away. Lady Farnham's been at the Queen's side since 1987, even stepping in for Prince Philip while he was unwell during Her Majesty's Diamond Jubilee last year. There are growing calls tonight to scrap financial penalties for aged pensioners who choose to work. Advocates say it'd not only give older Australians more money to live off, but fill critical labour shortages.
At 80, Yvonne Breitkrutz's passion for teaching remains strong. She still works the odd day as a casual.
I'd like to work a lot more often because I think I'm still a good teacher.
She can't afford to. For every dollar a pensioner earns over $240 a week, they lose 50 cents from their fortnightly pension.
I can do only 1 day in 3 weeks. or lose my pension or part of my pension.
On top of that, there's tax, so most pensioners don't bother.
There's a massive disincentive for working in Australia.
National Seniors Australia is calling for employment income to be exempt from the income test for pensioners with limited savings or assets, saying it would give them more financial security while filling labour shortages as the population ages.
We've got hundreds of thousands of people who would be willing to do more work, and yet we're penalising them.
Mark McBrighty employs dozens of pensioners as carers.
It can be a little frustrating for scheduling staff when people say, look, I can't afford to work.
Government figures show less than 3% of Australia's pensioners receive employment income, compared to 25% of those in New Zealand, where pensions are unaffected by earnings from work.
If an older Australian works more, guess what? They pay more tax.
Advocates urging both the major parties to take the proposed reform to the federal election. Alex Lewis, 7 News.
Entire communities gone, burnt houses still smouldering beneath the snow. Is a religious sect to blame for Colorado's biggest bushfire? It's one of the world's most isolated places, but not remote enough to escape the pandemic. Antarctica's first COVID outbreak. The hair-raising moment a freight truck flips in the middle of an intersection. And the unexpected link between a diabetes drug and heart health, how Australian scientists made the discovery. An unusual road rage incident in Cairns where a cyclist has taken issue with a driver demanding he pull over. When the driver goes to turn through the centre parking strip, the rider actually tries to throw his bike under the car's front wheels. It didn't work and the car took off. New pictures have emerged of the moment a truck driver rolled through an intersection in Western Sydney. You can see the drivers racing to the rig and opening the cabin door to help the driver. It happened right outside a truck stop where there luckily wasn't much traffic. The driver was treated for minor injuries at the scene. It's still smouldering beneath the snow, and now fire investigators believe they're closer to the source of Colorado's worst wildfire disaster. They've narrowed it down to a single neighbourhood where a shed on the property of a religious sect was seen burning. They're crucial answers, but won't help the hundreds who've lost everything.
The snowfall would almost be beautiful if it weren't covering entire communities burned to the ground. Snow has extinguished the threat of flames, but made finding possessions or attempting to clear the ruins impossible for now.
The scenes are still hot. They're still, deep in debris, hot debris.
Today, families who'd fled Colorado's horror fire fronts were allowed back.
Just a few days ago, you were celebrating Christmas at home and hanging your stockings, and now home and hearth have been destroyed.
I can buy new books, I can buy new furniture, but it's really hard to build back a community.
One of nearly 1,000 homes gone. The list of addresses more than 20 pages long. Investigators have narrowed the source to a single neighbourhood and are looking at this video.
That's somebody's barn.
A shed alight on the property of a local religious sect, seen burning the day the wildfires exploded. Of the 3 people listed as missing, some good news.
One of those persons has been accounted for alive and well.
It's feared the remaining 2 haven't survived. As the snow starts melting already, teams hope to find answers in the ruins beneath. Emma Dallymore, 7 News.
It seems no place on Earth is immune to COVID. Researchers in Antarctica are now dealing with an outbreak at Belgium's Princess Elizabeth Polar Station. At least 16 of the 25 staff have caught the virus. The cluster has taken hold despite all staff passing PCR tests, quarantining and living in one of the most remote places in the world. Scientists have unlocked a life-saving secret in a diabetes drug. It works to reduce blood sugar, but is giving an unexpected heart benefit too. How widely could it work? That story is just ahead on 7 News. Time to unlock today's sport. Here's Ben.
Yeah, thank you, Katrina. G'day, everyone. Words of warning. Some of our best lay down the gauntlet. Ash Barty and Steve Smith deliver promises their rivals don't want to hear. Plus, Queensland's fitness queens tilts at the Winter Olympics. On due 100, that's the ominous warning from Steve Smith to a shell-shocked England ahead of Wednesday's pink test at the SCG. It comes as the tourists try to avoid a series whitewash, and Joe Root dismisses calls to quit the captaincy.
Both teams donned pink to support the McGrath Foundation's fight against breast cancer. By his superhuman standards, Steve Smith's in the red.
It's been tough to get rhythm and get into a groove.
Super keen to get back in the black. The batter rated our best since Brisbane, totalling 127 runs at a human average of 31.75 for the series.
Yeah, hopefully can be amongst the runs this week. It's been a little while since I've scored 100.
Smith faced a centre wicket bowl-off between Boxing Day hero Scott Boland and Josh Hazlewood, keen to prove he's over a side strain that sidelined him in Melbourne.
The ball seemed to be coming through quite nicely, so I'm not sure how he's pulled up or how he's going. I'm sure we'll hear more in the next day or so.
England have only lost 3 5-test series here in Australia in the history of the Ashes. Under siege captain Joe Root determined to avoid another whitewash.
As a captain of this team, we are very privileged to get the opportunity to represent our country. We're better than the performances we put in, we all know that, and we've got 2 chances now to try and get something from the rest of this tour.
Bagged both here and back home, Root will make a call on quitting as captain after the series.
That's a distraction that should be around the group, or I should be wasting energy on right now.
Andrew McKinlay, 7 News.
The Heat have kept the faith, naming the same squad that took the Sixers to a 1-run thriller for tomorrow's rematch at Carrara. In Sydney, the best debut with the ball in Big Bash history. The Thunder unleashing lightning-quick Pakistani Mohammad Hasnain, the 21-year-old with a triple wicket maiden in his first 6 balls. Despite the best efforts of Queensland's Matt Renshaw, it spelt the end for the Strikers' season after Matt Gilks' 93 set Adelaide 172 to win. They fell 28 runs short. And tonight at the MCG, the Stars have gone from a field of dreams to a nightmare in 24 hours. 2 more players going down with COVID. Yesterday's top scorers Joe Clark and local grade cricketer Tom Rogers.
After being in the same change room with those 2 players yesterday, I thought it might have been a huge risk to go ahead tonight. I think the worst possible result could be infecting the opposition.
They have gone ahead. 12 Stars are now positive. So was their start in the Melbourne Derby. How will Maxi's minnows go? We can find out tonight, straight after the news. Well, she's dominated world tennis for 2 years, but Ash Barty believes she can get even better. The world #1 starts 2022 in Adelaide later this week, but it's the work the Queenslanders put in over the last 2 months she hopes will take her to another level.
It's a complete development of everything. Time and time again, I want to try and be the complete player. I want to try and make sure there are no holes in my game.
Last night in Sydney, our #1 men's player punched plenty of holes in one of the biggest scalps of his career at the ATP Cup. Alex de Minaur channelled Australian captain Leighton Hewitt, taking down world #7 Matteo Berrettini.
One of the world's best dismissed by Australia's finest.
To play on your home court in front of friends and family, playing for Australia, which there's no greater honour, and it just brings out the best in me.
Yeah, it helped the wildcard Aussies topple one of the tournament favourites, Italy, 2-1. It's World Motorsport's torture test, and the Dakar Rally's baring its teeth early. Aussie Daniel Sanders has the lead after the opening stage in Saudi Arabia, but it was a savage start for Queenslander Toby Price.
Top speeds and sand as far as the eye can see. Calls for carnage. The Dakar Rally, a spectacular event when you get it right.
Mistake that a lot of people did, and then we sort of got in a little group and figured it out really quick, and then this paid off in the end and we just pushed hard to the finish line.
2-time champion, the Gold Coast, Toby Price, not so lucky. Lost in the desert for 45 minutes.
Bit of a way to start the rally, but it's only early days and we'll wait and see what happens.
Price is 22nd, while Daniel Sanders leads by more than 3 minutes. Swapping sand for snow, the fittest woman on earth, Queensland's CrossFit queen Tia-Claire Toomey wants to add Winter Olympian to her already impressive CV. The Summer Olympian and Commonwealth Games medalist finished 12th with Ashley Werner in the 2-person sleigh at Latvia's World Cup. They're the top Aussies after Bree Walker and Chiara Rodingius crashed out.
Right here, she does it again. Oh!
At 19 years and 84 days, Australia's Josh Giddey's made NBA history. The Oklahoma City rookie became the youngest ever to record a triple-double.
As Giddey operates off the bounce and drains the three.
I'm making progress more mentally than physically. Just reading the game, it's slowing down for me a little bit more.
Giddey had 17 points, 14 assists and 13 rebounds. Throw in 4 steals for good measure. But nothing good about this in the NFL. Tampa Bay's wide receiver Antonio Brown sensationally walked out on his team mid-game, throwing his kit into the crowd.
He is no longer a buck. All right, that's the end of the story. Let's talk about the guys that went out there and won the game.
Katie Brown, 7 News.
Katie, thank you. Big Bash's David and Goliath battle. Katrina, straight after the news. Can't wait.
All right. Thank you, Ben. A dog has been rescued after it was swept away and buried in an avalanche. Nearby skiers helped look for the canine named Apollo and used probe poles to search through the sea of snow.
I found him.
You found him?
I found him, yeah.
Hey! You're okay. A little scared?
Other than an injured leg, Apollo is said to be doing well. Now let's take a look at what's on Sunrise tomorrow.
Tomorrow on Sunrise, checking yourself for COVID, the best rapid tests on the market.
Which ones are really the most accurate and how to use them.
See you in the morning, Queensland.
It was first developed to treat diabetes. Next, the new drug that has a hidden heart benefit and the Aussie scientists who discovered it. And it has been a day to remember for surfers on the coast. I'll have the latest on what to expect from ex-tropical cyclone Seth after the break. Researchers have made a surprise discovery in the fight against diabetes. A class of drugs used to treat patients with the disease can also prevent heart attacks.
Prevention is better than a cure. Just ask Professor Karl-Heinz Peter, whose job it is to save the lives of dozens of heart attack patients each week.
We try to treat patients as soon as possible, but often we are still too late.
But there's a class of drugs prescribed to lower the blood sugar of people with type 2 diabetes. It could be the answer to improving heart health.
In our study, we have really for the first time shown that it can protect against heart attacks.
To find out how, a team of researchers replicated the disease in mice.
We now understand why diabetes increases the risk of a heart attack and how this drug prevents this.
There are currently only a limited number of drugs proven to prevent heart attacks. And while this one has shown promising signs in diabetic patients, further clinical trials are needed to determine its effectiveness in the wider population.
We may find that these medications have got further benefits beyond just for those with diabetes.
Sonia Marinelli, 7 News.
Time for the weather now, and here's Liz.
Hello everyone. The extreme wind, waves and tides will gradually ease back, but it's likely rainfall will ramp up again as ex-tropical cyclone Seth edges towards mainland Australia as a low. Not the best news for those holidaymakers on the coast. Here's a look at how today unfolded. There was a mixture of sunny breaks and cloud. 21 up to 30 in Brisbane. Logan reached 31. Severe weather warnings remain current for damaging winds, high tides and dangerous surf along the coast. Here's a look at the satellite. We have ex-cyclone Seth sitting around 400 kilometres off the southeast coast and pushing those huge waves and strong winds across the region. Elsewhere, storms lying across the tropics and a severe thunderstorm warning is current north of Mount Isa. Tomorrow, ex-Seth weakens slightly but moves a little closer to the coast again, so gusty winds and large waves will continue, but we can also expect an increase in cloud and showers. Around the capitals tomorrow, a possible shower in Hobart. Darwin could see a storm. Back to northern Queensland, a severe to extreme heat wave is building with temperatures well above average both day and night. 36 in Cairns and Townsville and up to 37 in Mackay. Take care everyone up there. In the south, hot and dry inland with cooler air along the southern ranges. Longreach tracking for 45, Rockhampton 39, Toowoomba just 28. Across the southeast, the beaches are still likely to be closed tomorrow with a mix of large waves, high tides and gusty winds. Otherwise, cloud and showers also picking up, especially into the afternoon. Staying fairly hot, 32 in Ipswich and tops of 30 on both coasts. Across the suburbs, breezy by the Bayside, then watch for a few showers after a dry start. Chermside and North Lakes heading for 32, 30 at Sandgate. Boaties, gale warnings are current offshore. Forget crossing the bars. For the bays, southwest winds between 15 to 25 knots. And in Brisbane, a possible shower from late morning into the afternoon, 32 tomorrow. Looking ahead, still the odd chance of showers from Wednesday. The wet weather could really ramp up from Thursday. In Ipswich, the chance of passing showers. We're going to have top temperatures staying in the 30s. Gold Coasters, you're most likely to see any heavy rain from Thursday. And it's a similar story on the Sunshine Coast, although it could be a little lighter. And that's the latest on the weather, Katrina.
Thanks, Liz. That is all from us this Monday from all the team. Have a fantastic night and we'll all see you back here tomorrow. Catch you then.